Everybody, and welcome to this morning's Cabinet meeting. We'll start off with item 1, which is apologies for absence, but I think we are all here. Yeah, brilliant, thank you very much. Declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest? No, either at this point or before the item is transacted, please. Minutes of the previous meeting, pages 3 to 6. I'll be happy to see those as a true record of our meeting. There's a move, I shall sign them in due course. Item 4, leaders' announcements. I just want to pick up on a couple of things under this item. The first thing I want to say is that clearly yesterday we were as a community shook by the news that Shrewsbury and Telford NHS Trust had been pleaded guilty, in fact, to health and safety breaches at the Magistrates Court following the death of two Shropshire and Telford Wrekin residents. And the first thing I'd like to say on behalf of the council as a whole, I'm sure, is that our hearts go out to Mohammed and Max's family, who have been truly let down by the NHS and the system that's meant to be there to protect them. This is a hospital trust that is in crisis. It has been for a very long time. For the last 2 or 3 years, it's effectively been in government intervention through the CQC, and we do really need to see dramatic improvements, not just at the hospital trust, but also GP access, ambulance times, social care. The whole system in Shropshire and Telford Wrekin is just not good enough for our residents. And we as locally elected people will never apologise for standing up for our residents and saying that they should have the best possible healthcare and social care. We do need to see urgent action from the government to provide support to the NHS Trust, to provide support to the NHS locally so these improvements can be made. This is not a one-off. This is the best part of a decade or more of issues and unacceptable standards of care, and we do need to see urgent action. It's ironic, as the senior district judge said yesterday in court, the £1.3 million fine that's been issued against the NHS Trust is £1.3 million less money for patients' safety and patients' care. But I know that the judge commented on that himself, so I'm not criticising the judge. But we do need to see what the plan is, because it's simply not good enough. It's not normal for what's happening. I do appreciate the hard work that NHS staff are doing every single day, but they've got both hands tied behind their backs. I do understand COVID, I do understand the other pressures, but every hospital trust in the country have also got those pressures, yet we are performing always at the bottom end of the league table. So my offer to members of Parliament, Liberal Democrat MPs and Conservative MPs, together with Conservative Shropshire Council, is let's work together to put forward a package of asks to the government where we can ask the government to provide real, concrete cash support and resource so that we can see the hospital trust that we all want and need for our own friends and families, for ourselves, but also the wider community. I also just want to touch on the cost of living crisis and to provide an update to Council that 95% of our residents in Telford Wrekin will get some type of cash support because we made the decision to extend the support from A to D to also band E houses. So 95% of our houses in Telford and Wrekin will get some type of cash support, and the team here at Telford and Wrekin once again have worked their socks off to get that funding out of the door. There will be a league table published in due course by the government, and I'm absolutely convinced that we will be at the top or near the top of that league table due to the work that our teams have carried out. But I think also everybody should accept that £150 really is a drop in the ocean given what's going on with energy costs, rent costs, general inflation, food. And what I want to say is that we will be on the side of our residents. We'll do all that we can to support them. We've frozen council tax this year and next, the only council in the country to make that pledge, despite opposition and votes against in the council chamber to the contrary. But we will do all that we can. We'll provide cash support for our food banks. We'll provide support baby banks. We'll do all that we can to help our residents. But the scale of the challenge is so great that only the government really can make a big impact. We're seeing inflation at the highest level since for 40 years, the highest tax burden for 50 years. It really is desperate times for our families and communities, and we do need that government intervention. And then finally, on a piece of good news, I hope, I'd like to say that I'm delighted to say that we are applying to join UK 100, a network of local authorities who are leading the way in tackling climate change. In support of this step, we will today be making a pledge to help lead the UK response to climate change, reaffirming our commitment to deliver net zero by 2030. And we are closer to the people who live and work in our communities, so we have a better understanding of their needs. This means that we can collaborate with them and to build a consensus for the solutions we need to transition to a net zero society that delivers multiple benefits and is fair and also works for everyone. Therefore, I'm delighted to announce that today will also mark the launch of our Climate Action Investment Fund, the West Midlands' first community municipal investment scheme, meaning local residents and businesses can now invest directly into a greener, more sustainable future in our borough. It's a fantastic initiative where crowdfunding model will be used, and the first Telford and Wrekin Climate Action Investment Fund will look to raise £500,000 initially. This is a way for local people to get involved in the borough's journey to net zero. They can invest any money as little as £5 and receive 2.1% interest through the investment product. The money raised will help us fund dozens of council and community projects that will reduce emissions in our borough. We're also pledging, as I say, to sign up to the UK 100 scheme on the same day that we're launching this. This is something we should all welcome, and I'd like to thank Caroline Healy's leadership on this agenda. We are really making a big difference already. We've got a fantastic track record, and this initiative will take us further and faster so that we have a greener and more sustainable borough for our future generations to come. Thank you very much indeed. I'll move now on to item 6, which is building safer, stronger neighbourhoods through appropriate... Oh, forgive me, item 5, yes. I'll move to item 5. Better Homes for All, Richard Overton.
Thank you, Sean. As part of the Better Homes for All programme to make best use of and improve the quality of existing homes across all tenures, this report outlines the introduction of a new borough-wide support package for landlords and tenants. Updating our private sector housing enforcement policy, amenity standards and licensing conditions. It sets out proposals to increase our HMO licence fees to ensure we are covering the cost of running the licensing scheme. It will respond to the current energy crisis to extending the scope of our affordable warmth programme to support more households in fuel poverty and achieve our carbon net zero targets for the borough. We will also be replacing landlord accreditation scheme with a borough-wide support for landlords and tenants, and introduce a dedicated landlord and tenants coordinator role. Added to this, training courses for landlords to help comply with changing regulations. We will be supporting elderly tenants in the private rented sector and an inspection programme for supported accommodation providers. We will continue to use our enforcement powers to make sure that we use targeted intelligence-based enforcement of landlords deliberately providing unsafe accommodation and make sure that HMOs and landlords meet the new conditions that we set out. I must say a big thank you to the team for how we continue to do the hard work needed to raise the private rented sector using the powers we have, as well as our education, advice and support to help landlords to make sure they can be the best they can and do not fall into becoming a bad landlord, as well as dealing with all of the work around empty homes and affordable warmth. I therefore move the recommendations 2.1 to 2.10.
Thank you very much, Richard. Is there a seconder? Thank you very much. Any comments or questions on this report? Councillor Carter?
Yeah, it's a really welcome report. Some great successes so far if we think about where it came from, where we acknowledged and residents acknowledged that there were problems in certain areas of our borough, and we've tried to intervene, bring as much power as we can from the local authority to drive up standards, because ultimately this is all about driving up standards, particularly in the private rented sector. And there are a number of reports today that demonstrate how we're trying to do that. So yeah, if we think about that, we suggested a method a few years ago that wasn't welcomed by the private rented sector. However, we at that time said we were prepared to listen, we were prepared to work with the private rented sector, and what you're seeing here today is actually what that means now a couple of years on, where the private sector are fully on board, where you've got good landlords. We will absolutely work with them and support them wherever we can. But where we've got bad landlords, and there'll be a really robust enforcement regime to tackle those. So really welcome this report. Great success, and long may that continue, because some of the areas in our borough do need that still.
Paul, go on.
Yeah, thanks. It's a great report. I think it's really positive. It shows the progress we have already made. Of course, it would be much more helpful if we had more powers, and we don't have those powers. Those powers aren't given to us by the government. In fact, we don't have the powers to even get to the point where we are saying that landlords should make their homes fit for human habitation, because that process went through Parliament and people voted against that in Parliament, which I'm amazed at, that people voted against that. So I just, we're doing all we can do. I don't get complaints about tenants in my ward. I get complaints about landlords. People saying, I wouldn't let my cat live in that house. Why are the landlords not doing more to keep the house up to standard? We can do a certain amount in the Safer Streets programme in Sutton Hill. We've done some really interesting work with tenants, and that's led to bad landlords actually taking it out on the tenants. Now, we have to protect our tenants because they are the most vulnerable. Those bad landlords need to be prosecuted appropriately and need to be dealt with appropriately. We're clear we've got a problem in Telford and Wrekin with certain landlords who don't like it. We've tried to raise that standard by setting up our own private company, which we have done, which is worked really well and brought investment into our council. So I'm proud of this report. I think it's a good report, and we need to move forward. Thank you.
Andy?
Yeah, thanks, Leader. There's just a couple of things I want to pick up on. I think the report in general shows the extent of our efforts to help our private tenants in Telford and Wrekin. There's two aspects which are particularly welcome, and one is the affordable warmth strategy and the range of measures we're taking there. I really do think we're going above and beyond what's within our capacity there. It ought to be, didn't it, an open goal for the government, to really invest in affordable warmth. There's so many boxes it ticks in terms of climate change, in terms of the pressures on people with heating bills, in terms of the general well-being and health of our residents. It ought to be a major investment, but we are doing what we can here, and I think the report shows that. The second area which I'd want to highlight is the section on older renters, and I really welcome the partnership with Age UK to with a package of support for older renters. We know our demographic is changing in Telford and Wrekin. It's really important that we attend to those private sector renters amongst older people who are or who could be suffering as a result of the lack of quality of their accommodation. And this, I think, is a good first step to doing that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andy. Are there any comments or questions from the opposition leaders?
Andrew first, Mike.
Yeah, up to you.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I welcome the report, and I understand the issues with tenants and with landlords, and every effort that the council can do to help towards that is I applaud. The one that personally I want to pick up on is the empty properties, and there's been some success, and I'm really chuffed. We've now re-employed an officer again to particularly focus on this, and there's been one about empty my ward for I think it's the best part of 8 years, through probate issues, which I know can be quite common. Anyway, that's coming to a head now. The house is on the market, so that's great. I think also economic conditions and the shortage of properties has probably helped reduce the amount of affordable homes. So there really isn't now any excuse at all for why a dwelling should be left empty for any length of time. So everybody out there should be making the best efforts to try and make it such that we haven't got anyone. It is a blight. It is a blot on the landscape when you've got them. So I applaud what the council's done, and I'm really pleased that now employed an officer or more officers to focus on that. The other one is affordable warmth, and I applaud what we're trying to do with that, because it just seems so obvious, doesn't it, when we've got climate change issues and cost of living. Surely we should make sure at least that everyone's homes are insulated. So the only question I'd like to ask on that, and forgive me if the detail and I'll miss it in the reports, is how are we publicising to the public out there what our schemes are for affordable warmth? How are we contacting those so they can be aware there is something available? Because in the old days you used to get a bill, you do get bills, you used to get a letter from your utility company saying we've now got a scheme on the go, and if you want us to help you with, you know, external wall insulation or loft insulation, da-di-da-di-da, and you'll have to pay £100 and the rest of it's paid for. And at least you know through a utility company you're going to get generally somebody pucker who's going to come out and do the job. So could you explain simply to how the public, how they get engaged with that? And if you would, I'd be very grateful. Thank you.
Councillor Reid?
Yeah, let me start by saying I'm certainly all for improving housing conditions and tackling any rogue landlords in the borough. I think this is a very large and important component part of Telford's housing offer and comprises around about 13,500 houses. And I'd also like to congratulate council officers on their success at securing a good deal of government funding to put into this sector. However, I do deeply regret the closure of the Landlords Accreditation Scheme and the introduction of the seemingly arbitrary, punitive civil penalty charging matrix scheme, a scheme which will undoubtedly be challenged in the courts at some point or other. The existing scheme I thought was a good one, and I would have welcomed an extension or improvements to it, and I'm unsure as to the claimed extent of some landlords who claimed it was burdensome. This is something which I think I'd probably personally need to explore further and verify one way or the other, rather than impose an overall scheme which may be justified on the comments of a few. I want to ensure that this new scheme has been fully consulted on and embraced by private landlords in general. However, Wrekin landlords, a key partner in the accreditation scheme, have not been properly consulted and are now faced with a draconian, sometimes petty inspection regime which will upset tenants and key partners alike. And I would urge Cabinet members to defer a decision on this item and consult properly and meaningfully with partners, as it's a clear and I think very moral duty to do. In turning to the 2.1 million government grant partially used to fund these wholesale changes, I note the 1.6 million is shared with Shropshire Council, who are actually the lead authority in this. And I think that's pretty amazing when you consider the way that this council has attacked and openly denigrated Shropshire. And I'm surprised really that they wanted to get in bed with you at all. And I assume that's down to the maturity of respective council officers really that have put this together. However, wholesale scrapping of the existing scheme, which has worked well, is akin to letting go of the reins of encouragement and potentially losing influence and control.
Councillor Reid, can you bring your remarks to an end? I know. Councillor Reid.
No, please.
Councillor Reid.
Chairman.
Councillor Reid.
Chairman, please.
I'm the chairman of the
Yes,
meeting.
you may
and I'm
not
asking
like
you
what-
to bring
No.
your. I know it's been a long time since you've been here.
Look,
I know that you might not
we-
realise the changes that we've made to this meeting to ensure that the meeting runs effectively.
I have another
Andrew,
important
if you're not willing to accept the chair, then please leave.
Look,
If you're not willing to accept the chair,
there's
please
nothing
leave.
in this report whatsoever.
Councillor Reid, if you're not
that
willing to
actually
accept
protects
the chair,
good
please
landlords
leave
and
the
deals
meeting.
with poor tenants.
Councillor Reid,
Look, you know, Sean,
no, Andrew, you are not respecting the chair of this meeting.
You-
It's been a long time since
you
you've been
are
here.
trying to gag what I want to
No,
say. about
I'm
the
not
scheme.
trying to-
You invited me to make comments, and I'd
Andrew.
really like to make some
Andrew.
substantial comments around
Andrew,
the tenancy
if this,
side of this.
Andrew, if this
Now,
is not the way we.
so-
This
well,
is not.
No, so
You're not listening to me.
no.
No, you're not listening to me. You're
But-
not respecting the chair of
No,
this
I am
meeting.
respecting the chair.
You are invited to
What?
the meeting,
And you've asked me to comment.
so please,
So,
Andrew,
please,
I will suspend the meeting.
please,
I will
let-
suspend the meeting if you do not
please
respect the chair
let
of this
me
meeting.
comment.
Andrew,
Now, you may not like what
I'm going to
gonna
move
say.
on. Councillor Overton, would you like to respond?
Yeah,
Well, there's no protection in this.
Andrew,
whatsoever
I've
for
moved
dealing
on.
with bad
I've moved
tenants.
on.
It's an important
Andrew,
part
I've
of this
moved
issue.
on.
And you really
Do you want
have
to
to
officer
listen.
let me know what I can do in these circumstances? I think that the Leader of the Opposition is not
But Chair,
respecting the chair of
you
the meeting.
invited me to
He's being
speak.
disorderly in the meeting.
Why are you
What are my
stopping me from
options, please,
speaking?
Anthea?
Yes, Councillor Davis, the Constitution allows the chair of a meeting to ask somebody to stop disrupting the meeting, and if they continue to ask them to leave, and if they don't, there are powers for the chair to postpone the meeting until that person either agrees not to be a disruption or to leave.
But I wasn't.
So Andrew,
I was trying
I'm
to
the chair of the
respond to your
meeting.
invitation.
I'm the chair of the meeting. I've asked you very politely to bring your comments to an end, and you continue. To the report.
Could you
Andrew,
clarify
you are-
something for me?
Andrew,
Could you clarify something?
no, I'm not going to
You're not
engage in a
going to
debate with you.
clarify either.
Richard.
yeah. Can I just say? I mean, as I said, as far as Bill's concerned, I mean, we've brought 3 million extra funding into this borough to deal with warmer homes, and this is usually done through targeted intervention in certain areas. So in those areas we have publicised what's going on, so we can intervene in those areas, and we're into our third area we'll be promoting shortly. So that's why it's not like the government scheme where we used to be able to just put it out there. It's targeted, so we have to go into those areas first. So Sutton Hill was our first area that we dealt with. As far as we do consult with landlords, and as I said, this new role is about not just supporting tenants; it's about supporting landlords as well. Because Andrew, we know there are some tenants who do not always play by the rules, and that's why we, through our enforcement powers, which is a separate report coming, we have our antisocial behaviour team and other areas of the council where we work with tenants as well to improve their behaviour. Because we know it's a two-pronged approach, and we're not, but this is about making sure the houses in our borough, the private rented market, which is of course a key operator in delivering housing need in our borough, is done to the best it can be, and that's why opening it up, getting rid of the landlord accreditation, which you were against, I remember, when we first brought it in. You had issues about that as well. We're getting rid of that because we want to support all landlords. We do not want landlords to not have that support, to stop them becoming rogue landlords, to stop them not meeting their requirements. So this is about supporting all landlords across the board. So I'm sure all landlords would appreciate that the council is on their side as well as being on the side of our tenants.
Thank you, Richard.
Could I think
No.
dealing with tenants as well? That's an important point. Thank you.
Right, I'm going to just explain to you, Andrew, how these meetings work. If you don't want to engage with the meeting, how it works, then please send us a shoot. We've moved on from this type of disruptive approach. So for the last 2 years, the way it works is this. The Cabinet member will introduce the report. Cabinet members will then have an opportunity to make comments and ask questions. The minority leaders will have a brief opportunity to raise questions or comments, and then we move on. This report will then make its way to council, where further questions can be asked. The other thing to say is that one person speaks and that's it. And the chairman of the meeting is respected. I'm not going to have a situation where you change that model, Andrew. And if you can't play by those rules, then please send a substitute, because I'm not going to accept it. I'm not opening this up. This is not a debate.
No, could you define?
Right. So that's been moved. It's been seconded. All those in favour? That's everybody. Thank you very much.
We'll
Move on to item 6 then. Let's try again. Let's see if we can get it right this time. Building safer, stronger neighbourhoods through appropriate use of our enforcement. Councillor Overton.
Thank you, Sean. Cabinet will be aware that robust enforcement is a key priority for this council as part of our work to protect, care and invest to create a better borough. This report provides an update on the work of our public protection teams and the engagement and enforcement activity that has been undertaken during 2021. I won't go through all the numbers, but I do want to give you a brief summary. The team have completed 29 multi-agency exercises. 259 fixed penalty notices for environmental breaches, including littering from vehicles and fly tipping, have been issued. The council secured 75,000 of external funding to tackle fly tipping on private land. 35,000 parking visits have been completed, comprising of 1,500 dedicated school patrols, which I believe is great in making sure our children get to school safely. We have supported over 250 victims impacted by antisocial behaviour. We have delivered the first property closure notice. 2 state-of-the-art solar-powered CCTV units have been installed. £60,000 worth of illegal goods have been seized. We have supported businesses through granting nearly 1,200 licence applications, and we launched Telford Wrekin Watch website with 300 residents signed up for updates to support us in tackling fly tipping and other environmental crimes. Through our work and engagement with residents, we're starting to see a reduction in fly tipping across the borough, but this is still a big problem for us, and there's plenty still to do. We need to continued support from residents to tackle this problem. Partnership work with town and parish councils has seen our community action teams make a difference locally and now play a key part in multi-agency community impact days. Our CCTV network has continued to grow, providing reassurance for residents and evidence, if required, to enforcing agencies. We're looking to expand our CCTV infrastructure through the use of our multi-purpose CCTV vehicle and mobile enforcement hub that can be deployed across the borough as needed. All this supports our £2.5 million Building Safer and Stronger Communities programme, which has, through Safer Streets Once, seen a reduction in crime by 15% in Brookside. I know Cabinet will agree that all this is fantastic work and demonstrates our commitment to keeping everyone in our borough safe. I would like to take this opportunity to thank all the officers for their hard work and commitment during 2021, and I welcome Cabinet support in approving the recommendations as set out in this report.
Thank you very much. Is that seconded? Any questions or comments from the Cabinet members? Paul?
Yeah, no, this is a great report again, and again showing how we're using enforcement as a positive tool in our communities and with our communities. People seeing real action against people who are causing problems within our communities. I welcome the report and welcome the recommendations.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's an excellent report which goes to show how much work has been going on behind the scenes, which actually builds into what we are definitely there for, which is to protect, care and invest to build a better borough. The use of the CCTV, that has been excellent right across so many areas of the borough. It's not only been in the market towns, it's in our communities, it's in our parks. And I think it's excellent that we give the town and parish councils the opportunities. They can buy into this model so they can actually purchase CCTV for problem areas they've got, or the fact they can have the mobile reactive CCTV. And I think that is really one of the ways that actually go to show why our residents feel safe. As highlighted in the report, we're in the top 10 nationally of residents feeling safe in their homes, and that has got to be down to the hard work of the officers in this administration to bring that across to our borough. Parking enforcement, that's welcomed everywhere, especially in my own market town. It's welcomed in the high street, but also around our schools, and we're making things safer for our families. And I think the whole ethos of this report is exactly what this administration is about. We're on the side of our residents. We want to make them feel safe in their homes and build a better borough. It's a brilliant report.
Thank you. Heidi?
Thank you, Leader. I really welcome this report, and I think it's a really important area for every resident in our borough. Shirley's picked up on one of the things that I was going to mention, which is obviously, Telford has been shown in recent data to be one of the safest major towns in Shropshire. And 76% of people feel safe in their homes. Now, obviously, we want it to be as high as possible. We always want that extra percentage on top of that. But I think that is a fantastic figure, and I think it really goes to show for some of the work that's been done in the Safer Stronger to bring that about. CCTV has made a real difference, I believe, to people. It makes people feel that little bit safer when they're out on the street. I think the work that's been done around sort of environmental protection and neighbourhoods, it makes your day that little bit better when you walk out of your door, and I think it's those kinds of things that residents really want to see across the borough, so I really welcome it, and I thank officers for their work on this and the Cabinet member as well.
Thank you. Kelly?
Yeah, just to agree with you, it's fantastic, and I think we've definitely seen, councillors would agree, the benefits of this work on Woodside with the cameras in areas where there is antisocial behaviours. That's improved. Fly tipping's improved, the litter, got a fantastic street champions as well. But I think the important thing is it's about the whole picture of that, isn't it? And tackling the issues that cause it, and it's the youth clubs, it's the working with the communities, it's the fly tipping. Such a bigger picture than just picking up and getting people in trouble for fly tipping, is it? But the Safer Stronger is really about sort of getting into the communities, finding out where the problems are, and trying to work with people to improve that. So it's a massive thing. I think, you walk around Woodside now, I think massively much nicer, much tidier, and the community feels more of that safer place. So thank you for your work, it's fantastic.
Howdy.
Yeah, I'm going to bring it back to litter, and I'll keep it brief. But yeah, I think I really welcome this, and I think it's things like the fact that we are now issuing penalty notices for littering. We've got, as Kelly said, a really fantastic network of street champions that litter people. They want to see us taking action in support of the work they're doing. So I think that's really, really positive that we're doing that. I welcome the work that's gone on in the negotiation with the Police and Crime Commissioner to bring that additional funding in to address fly tips that aren't on our land, because that's been another really difficult issue, and residents get very frustrated when they're reporting a fly tip, and we've had to say it's private land, we can't deal with that, but working with the police we're able to start to address those issues too, and all of that makes a fantastic difference to people's lives. As you said, enforcement touches everyone's lives, doesn't it, as soon as they leave the house. And I think also the positive for me is that sort of bringing that enforcement role together with the positive environmental improvements that the CAP teams are doing in neighbourhoods, so that, as Kelly said, you walk around your neighbourhood, it's cleaner, it's well maintained from an environmental maintenance point of view, and that just makes your whole, you're set off on your day, and you're walking through an area that's attractive and feels safe, and that's so important.
Thank you. Lee?
Excellent report. If ever a report demonstrated to our residents that we'll do as much as we can as a council with the powers that we've got to help you and deal with some of the real nuisances that you face, and this is it really. Some excellent examples of that, whether that be from tackling dog fouling, fly tipping, which is a blight in a lot of communities across our borough, both urban and rural. Even in sort of the semi-rural areas like Shawbirchbill, I know that it's a significant issue for you. If I think about some of the town centres and high streets, if we think next year there'll be we'll have invested over £12.3 million into our high streets, so this enforcement agenda needs to go alongside that to make sure that investment works, whether that's extra CCTV, whether it's the mates visits, which are significant in terms of improving the safety of our nighttime economy, or parking enforcement. And then finally about taxis as well. We've long had a reputation for being really robust in the way that we licence but enforce taxis. The frustration is though that national legislation is still to be delivered, that stronger national legislation to give us greater powers to enforce against taxis. So really, really positive. It's great that we're working in partnership with the Police and Crime Commissioner, some investment from him there. However, underneath a lot of these things are the requirement for police officers as well. We're still a million miles behind that target set by government 2 years ago. Was it 20,000 police officers? Despite the fact that far more than that are leaving the service through retirement, etc. We do need that investment in police officers in the borough, and we need our local police officers to be more robust, so that aligned with our extra investment, our positive investment, positive partnership with the Police and Crime Commissioner, we can actually make all of our neighbourhoods safer and stronger.
Okay, thank you, Lee. Leader of the Opposition. Andy, would you like to go first?
Yeah,
Right,
I'd love to. Why not? I actually agree with a lot of the initiatives in this report, particularly around CCTV and buying into that. I think it's very good, and some of the issues just raised by Councillor Carter. But I have to say the recent data pointing towards Telford being one of the safest major town in Shropshire didn't include Chetwynd, Aston and parts of my ward, whose residents have suffered a plague of abuse, threats, stalking, drug taking, drug dealing, theft and intimidation. I've also been told that despite claims of working with key partners, as stated in paragraph 1.3, getting confirmation of continual incidents which have included stabbing and threats to 2 local women, one of which was too scared to leave her home afterwards, getting details and confirmation from the police have been quite difficult. Now, despite our work to care and protect, I believe that we're putting some of our residents at risk of serious harm. And what I want from officers and members of this council alike is the serving of a community protection notice under the Anti-Social Behaviour, Crime and Policing Act 2014 to remove this blight from our community at source and to do it right away. In short, it's now up to this administration to put its money where its mouth is. It has the powers to deal with this and to take immediate action to make this part of our community safe. Now, this has been a very serious issue, and I hope that it's received as such. As to the issue of the nighttime economy, again, I had some very good proposals in that. But I was looking forward to a supported scheme, such as we saw with the street pastors, who did much to deal with the unsavoury side of the nighttime economy and help countless youngsters with various problems and issues to make sure that they exited premises safely and that they were sent on their way home safely. And I just wonder if we could look at some sort of initiative around that, certainly supporting volunteers again, to try and put some sort of scheme back in place.
In terms of the very particular issue that you raised, Andrew, if you could write to me with the specifics, and I will personally raise that with the Superintendent of Police for Telford Wrekin Borough, and also the Police and Crime Commission to understand the fuller picture. Clearly, it wouldn't be appropriate to discuss such an individual, sensitive case across the council chamber. But if you, I'm not asking for a debate. I'm just asking. I'm giving you an offer. I'm giving you an offer. If you could please write to me about it, because it sounds very serious indeed, and I would like to understand what the police are doing and what we can do as a council to do that.
Well, I appreciate that, and that's very good of you. And I just was trying to be helpful actually and give you some background.
I don't think it's appropriate on camera while it's being broadcast to talk about what is an
make a public statement about this, which no doubt the media will pick up.
Okay, well, my offer's there. If we take that behind the meeting, so that we can just ensure that progress is made and it's done in an appropriate way. Councillor Tomlinson.
I welcome this report, and what Councillor Carter said is absolutely true. It gives, if residents feel that action can be taken against negativity, against antisocial behaviour, it makes them feel looked after. It also prevents, to some degree, a small amount of anarchy. I had car park wars in my ward not long ago, where people were having their cars daubed with paint, and had to move their cars and park them a distance away so that this wouldn't occur. So I welcome all the efforts that this local authority is doing in terms of enforcement, whether it's civil parking, whether it's fly tipping, and even with its CCTV cameras over a local car park, which has certainly cut down the donutting and the antisocial behaviour of some people and drug taking. But I also echo the concerns that really in part we would love to be able to work more in cooperation with the police. And we have an excellent PCSO where we are. I'd name a neighbour, too embarrassing, so I can't do that. And she's brilliant, but there used to be two brilliant PCSOs that were there every day and patrolled the neighbourhood, knew the local kids that potentially could get into trouble, and kept an eye on things. And we haven't got that coverage that we used to have. So I would echo that. It would be lovely to have that investment from the police to mirror what we're doing as well.
Thank you, Phil. I'd like just to say a few things on this. I think firstly, the vast majority of our residents in Telford Wrekin follow the law, play by the rules, and most communities are safe, good places to live, work, and visit. And I think we all need to make sure that is absolutely where we are, to ensure that we don't scaremonger or put people off areas of our borough, because our borough is a very safe and good place to be. But for those small number of people who don't play by the rules, it's always been this administration's view that we'll come after you and we will sort you using the powers that we've got. Whether you're a dodgy landlord or somebody who wants to fly tip or drop litter, then we will use our powers to enforce the rules on behalf of the majority. I think that this report is an excellent report. I think we've made massive strides over the last 5 years around the enforcement agenda, in particular around CCTV. I've got to say, I think our CCTV system now is a very, very good system, and a system that we can trust. And actually, sometimes just the installation of a CCTV camera can provide that deterrence, but also that assurance to communities that they are looking for, and which then reduces antisocial behaviour. I would like to thank publicly the Police and Crime Commissioner, who's been very supportive of the work that we do, using resources that he's got, that I would just gently say are, residents of Telford Wrekin paying his council tax, we're just getting the money back. But there's more that we can do, and I think Lee's point around local police officers being seen on the beat is the thing that residents say to me most that they would like to see more of, and we need to see more police officers out and about providing that assurance. And it does frustrate me from time to time that we often see more police officers outside of a football ground on match day than we see actually in our communities and our wards across the week. And I think that residents really do want to see those police officers out and about, and I think that is something that we would like to work with. And then just finally, I think in terms of the powers that we haven't got, we're not the only council in the country calling for this. We're not the only. It's not the purview of just Labour-run councils. Conservative-run councils say as well that there's a lot of powers that actually, if the government just trusted us with, we would be able to get on and support our residents, our businesses, and our law-abiding citizens far more. I do hope that the government, whichever political persuasion is running the government, is able to trust councils far more and give those powers so that we can support our community. Richard, do you want to come back on the points that's been raised?
Well, I'll just say, I mean, as I said, it's a fantastic report. The enforcement agenda is something that we've pushed for the last few years now and raised our standards in Telford Wrekin, and everything we do is about making sure our communities are safer and greener and cleaner, and the enforcement agenda links into that. As far as the Nottingham Common, we do have taxi marshals to try and support people getting home safe. And the street passes are still around. We still get their reports from them as well. We do want to make sure that when people go out at night, they are in a safe environment and they do get home safe. And as Lee says, taxi licence is key to that as well. We have lobbied a lot of the time to try and stop cross-border hiring, because we can only be in control of our taxis, which is a shame, because we've got taxis coming from Shropshire and from Wolverhampton, which don't always meet the same standards that we do. But the leader and Lee makes a great thing. We're not here. We're doing all we can with the powers we've got to make our community safe. But it is up to the police at times to do their bit. We do need more police officers on the beat, as Sean says. And I'm sure we can speak to the Police and Crime Commissioner. Probably say he probably needs more money from government as well to deliver that. But we are doing what we can to make our neighbourhood safer, and that's all I can say for our neighbourhood enforcement officers. They're doing a great job. They're trying to cover the whole borough, and I know that the CAT teams are welcomed by parish and town councils, because they're not just doing about enforcement, but they're also making their environments cleaner and greener too.
Brilliant, that's a really good debate, thank you. So it's been moved and it's been seconded. All those in favour? That's everybody, thank you. Okay, we'll move on then to item 7, with the Housing Investment Programme update, page 137 to 154. It's a joint report between Richard and Lee. Who's going to start off?
Thank you. So, this Labour Council continues to be on our resident side. Throughout the last report, we talked about raising the standards of the private rented sector in our borough. Here in Telford Wrekin, one of our main priorities is ensuring that local people have a decent place to live. This is a foundation on which people build their lives. This report about the housing investment programme through New Place, the Council's wholly owned housing company, and Telford Wrekin Homes, another initiative from this Labour administration. The key focus for us is to protect, care and invest in no better place than making sure our residents as tenants have a good quality homes to rent, with a security of tenure and a landlord they can trust. It is remarkable that through the ongoing success of New Place, there are those who didn't support it from the opposition and will probably still sell it off. I'm extremely proud of this report and the information contained in it, which shows that New Place continues to be a huge success story for Telford Wrekin Council. Now established locally as a landlord people can trust, 96% of tenants who took part in the last annual survey told us they would recommend New Place homes to their friends and family. Not only are New Place homes offering people in the borough a secure home for life, but the income it is generating is being reinvested back into the council to help deliver key frontline services. Whilst the value of the portfolio is now worth some 17.4 million more than our original investment. Key income that continues to help us deliver services to our residents, whether buying care packages or investment into our green spaces and parks. As of today, to this report, New Place housing portfolio comprises of 442 homes with a further 442 homes planned or in delivery, bringing the portfolio to 884 homes. It has also regenerated over 23 acres of brownfield land, addressing sites that may otherwise be a blight in those communities. Works are ongoing at Southwater Way, New Place's low carbon town centre scheme, and the first 12 Telford Wrekin homes are undergoing refurbishment and due to be completed this month. We should also recognise additional benefits that HIP have delivered through employment, apprenticeships, supply chain development and the delivery of a range of community projects. I therefore move the recommendations in 2.1 and 2.2.
Thank you. Lee?
I'll be second. If we think about this report, it's really a reflection of 7 years now since the original conception and inception of New Place. And I think it's always worthwhile thinking about the origins of New Place as it was at the time and the Housing Investment Fund. If we think about good quality homes to rent on brownfield sites, developing a sustainable income if we could as an additional benefit to help the council at a time of record Conservative government cuts. And actually what this report does is demonstrate that through the 442 homes with another 442 planned on 23 acres of brownfield land, for over 1,200 residents who've got massive levels of satisfaction and over £10 million generated for the council, it's achieved and ticked all of those things off in a good amount of time actually. If we think about some of the notable other things as well, the new low carbon scheme at Southwater is fantastic. I think that development was filled before it was even completed and built out. If we think about some of the preservation of some of the heritage and historic buildings in the borough, so three to note in here, the Gower building, the community centre at Ketley and the Edwardian New College building, by association with New Place, that's been preserved. The fact that the housing investment programme, but New Place in particular, has provided local employment using local labour, local suppliers. I think it's something like over 70% of the Donington Woodway scheme has either used supplies or labour from within a 25-mile radius of that development. All of the brickwork coming from a Telford and Wrekin supplier. And then in addition to that, moving on to Telford and Wrekin homes, where 140 homes will come online, refurbished to a good standard, with again a responsible, caring landlord, providing that good quality rented accommodation. Finally, I think it's worth noting that at this time of a cost of living crisis, a huge cost of living crisis, things like the carbon neutral development at Southwater, driving down energy costs for tenants, but also the fact that New Places had no rental increases for the last 2 years, combined with a 2-year council tax freeze, really demonstrating that, you know, we're caring landlord, providing good quality homes in those areas that were locked, that weren't ever going to be developed by the private sector, but we've been able to utilise them. Real success story, but not just looking backwards, going forwards, it will absolutely continue to be delivered for the benefit of residents.
Thank you. Councillor Healy.
Well, it's not like me to let a cabinet meeting go by without mentioning climate change, and I'm really pleased that my colleague has also majored on that in. My work here is done. But no, I do welcome the introduction of more sustainable homes. I think that is so important. Obviously from our, in terms of our action, in terms of reducing the carbon footprint of the borough. But as Councillor Carter has said, you know, we are in the midst of a cost of living crisis, and actually increased energy efficiency, renewables as part of the build with things like solar panels. That all really helps to reduce people's actual outgoings as well. And even on those properties where, the early properties where we didn't have the sort of things like solar PV, you know, good quality insulation is also really important, and good build that keeps costs low. So, you know, we're ensuring people that, you know, they're in very efficient homes in terms of energy use, and I welcome things like EV charging points now being put into developments, and of course that will happen with the development sort of behind us here in the Station Quarter as well. So, you know, that's all really welcome stuff. Again, really pleased about the Telford Wrekin Homes initiative. I know from my own ward, sometimes former social housing can be bought by landlords who don't always refurbish those properties to the best standards, and then we end up having to deal from an enforcement perspective, as we've described in the previous report. So by us stepping into that place, you know, we're actually able to ensure that people do have good quality housing that's more sustainable and more affordable. So I really welcome the report.
Thank you. Shirley?
Thank you. A lot of what I was going to say has actually already been covered by my colleagues, so I won't go over that too much. I really welcome this report. I think the 96% of tenants saying that they would recommend New Place actually speaks volumes and says everything we really need to do about this investment. We have provided high quality homes with security tenancies. We've provided people with a home for life, which is absolutely great to see, and that's what we all want. We want to be able to buy somewhere and know that if we want to stay in that house, it's ours for as long as we want it and we can afford it, and it will be looked after with a good quality landlord who will actually do the upgrading and refurbishment as and when it's needed. They know they've got that with the council. It's a wealth of homes, exciting new developments, as I've already said about the low carbon town centre scheme. That is absolutely brilliant, and we're bringing old buildings back into life. And I'm not just going to say the Gower, but the old nursery building at Ketley Bank, and the way that has been done, it's been done in such a really unique, nice way that we are keeping all the attractive features whilst we're making a lovely home to people. We're using those brownfield sites, providing diverse developments. Ketley Bank is another one. We're providing bungalows for elderly people, and there isn't much provision like that going on with private developers, so it's really good that we're doing that. And we're not only receiving the income that's been generated by New Place, which is supporting those frontline services, but it's also the extra benefits we're getting from social and added value. And I've got to say, similar to my colleague, I can't let this pass without mentioning my portfolio, but it was brilliant to see our partners, Lovell Homes, that donated the contents of 2 show homes to our care leavers to help them set up and support for starting their new homes. There are so many good parts to this report that you can pick out. It is absolutely what we came into politics for, and that's about providing good quality homes for our residents. So I welcome the report and all the work that's gone into it by the officers.
Thank you. Eileen?
Yeah, a lot of it has already been said. I think, you know, firstly, I was really pleased to be able to support a budget that allows for these things to happen. This is really important work across our borough to have good quality, secure housing for residents across the borough. Is just, you cannot top that. You know, 96% of tenants recommend a New Place. The fact that they feel like when they move into that home that they can stay there for the rest of their life if they want to. I think you know, you can't put a price on that. It's really, really important. But you know, the income that we generate from this as well, that feeds back into this, and I just think that this is more of the sort of thing that we want to be doing, and Telford Homes is going to really sort of open that up with bringing some of those older properties back in under really good landlords. As Carolyn said, a lot of properties don't end up maybe with the best of landlords, so I think that will really help with that. So yeah, and they've already mentioned the climate sustainability ones at Southwater, and I think that's one that we really, really want to be pushing for across all of our developments going forward. I think, you know, it's going to make a real difference with things like the cost of living. So really great report, so thank you.
Thank you. Who's the opposition?
Yeah, happy to do that. Yeah, I welcome this. We've always supported New Place. being an accountant, I can't help but think it does wonders for the tenants and wonders for the bank balance at the moment, because it pays its way, and the investment that we have as a local authority is growing as well. So I shall fight with all my tooth and nail about the auditors trying to put a depreciation policy against appreciating asset, which is complete nonsense. That's just a technical point. I couldn't Thank you very much. I don't want to throw that one in. No, I support all that's been done. And I looked to the one which my wife's got in her ward, which obviously at plans meeting we went completely against, but it's a beautiful setting. 54 dwellings there are there now. I've just got one communication problem though, or my wife's come across it. If we have a generic issue with a development that's gone on or when it's been finished, and we're trying to talk to officers, the one I particularly think of is that there were trees planted and unfortunately they weren't watered properly, so a lot of them have passed away. They died, which is a shame because they were lovely mature trees that were planted. When we try to raise this with officers, sometimes we come across an issue where they say, oh, that's New Place. Now, New Place to me is a part of the local authority. Technically it's a separate limited company, but it's part of us. So I would like to make sure that those chains of communication through our own officer corps, in other words, if you go through my Telford or you go through customer relationships and you've got an issue because people have brought it to you, oh, my tree's dead, you don't want to be told, oh, we can't bring that through the normal portal because that's New Place. And then you have to think, well, who do I then contact at New Place? So that would be useful.
Andrew?
Just a couple of things briefly. One, I'm glad you like the retention of the old schoolhouse, the community centre at Ketley, because we did that. I certainly got involved in that. It was due to be sold for $500,000, if I remember, by the outgoing Labour administration, but hey-ho. I thought it was an iconic building and it was one that needed to be preserved. That's why we gave it to the community. The other one's just a question really on the £10 million housing intervention fund, on the source of that.
That's an extra report.
Oh, right.
Okay.
Jump in the
I just want to say a few things on this. Firstly, I speak to a lot of the tenants of New Place when I go and see the developments, and the personal stories that you hear from them about why they choose New Place is both inspirational, moving, and actually demonstrates why we did this in the first place. I've spoken to families who live in New Place homes who've got children with disabilities, who've had landlord notices telling them to leave within in the next 6 months, requiring those young, vulnerable, disabled children having to move school. And having a New Place home gives them and their family and their children the security that they need, which is so important. I'm really, really proud of what we do. And being first, I think we were first for New Place in the country. It allows people to throw stones, and I remember the stones that were thrown at us locally about New Place. The alternative budget from the Conservatives to sell off New Place, which was just an absolute shock and horror story for the tenants of New Place, because the reason why they choose New Place is because it is the council who effectively are their landlord. I do hope at some point we can get away from this. I think there was this with the previous leader of the Conservative group, where actually there was consensus around New Place, that New Place actually had done the right thing. It wasn't going to be sold off, it wasn't going to be used as a political football, and I hope that that can be reaffirmed in due course. But the other thing I'd like to say is that these are in locations where the private sector just would not build. They just would not build sites which are blighted. And what I think is fantastic now, which is a full circle, is that I have residents contacting me wanting New Place to take on a piece of land in their ward, because they see New Place as a very good regenerational vehicle, and that's fantastic. I'd also like to say a big thank you to the West Midlands Combined Authority for the grant funding that they provided for Southport. It's another example of how this council works in partnership with other organisations. But I just want to end with Telford Wrekin homes, because it's something that people in the room will know that I've been really pushing for a long time. 40% of homes that were bought under the right to buy are now nationally in private landlords' hands. So I actually, I'll be controversial, I'm generally supportive of right to buy, as long as it then leads to new homes being built and to replace them. But 40% of right to buy homes are now in the private landlord sector, which means that the state starts picking up the additional costs, because it goes from market or social rent to excessive private sector rent, which is often paid, not often but not always paid by a universal credit or housing benefit. This Telford Wrekin Homes will ensure that we take back control of those homes for the public good and bring them back into the family of the public sector. And that's really, really important. I've long had issues in my ward and other people's wards where decent quality homes, previously owned by the council, previously owned by Wrekin Housing Trust, have fallen into the hands of landlords who just do not care, and one or two houses can bring down a whole street. And this commitment to Telford Wrekin Homes of 100 homes rising significantly after that is something that I'm really proud about. And those tenants will be key workers, they'll be care leavers, they will be foster parents, it'll be used local people who can't get on the housing ladder, and I'm really, really proud. So I do hope that when this comes forward for investment, one, everyone votes for it. Those people who opposed it in the first place and then pledged to set it off will admit they were wrong. And every time this vehicle comes forward for additional funding, there isn't the game playing that happens, because there is 1,200 people who live in Telford Wrekin, who live in a new place home. That number will significantly grow over the years, and it's their home we're talking about in the council chamber, not some anonymous building. And then just finally, on Ketley Community Centre, the Ketley Bank Community Centre, it was 2007 that the last Labour administration lost control, and it's this Labour administration that again and again and again invests, and it's the Conservatives that vote against. Councillor Overton.
Yeah, as I said, it's a fantastic report. As you said, there's great videos out there of the tenants saying how much they love to be in a new place, and as Councillor Carter said, most of our sites are let off plan before they're even built, so it shows success. And Bill, if you've got any issues, there's a new place website, or you can just email me and I'll pass them on.
We will pick that point up.
Yeah.
It's a good point. Okay, it's been moved, it's been seconded. All those in favour? That's everybody. Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on then to item 8, another housing report, which is the 10 million... Joint, yeah. It's 10 million Housing Investment Fund, delivering new homes and supporting our most vulnerable residents. This is a joint report between Councillor Overton and Councillor Burford.
Thank you very much, Sean, again. Our housing strategy sets out 3 objectives: to create sustainable, accessible, affordable and integrated communities, make the best use of our existing homes, provide homes to support and empower our most vulnerable people. This report sets out how, as a council, both directly and working with our partners, we're delivering against these commitments. It also recognises that we still face challenges of affordability and access to suitable housing, and sets out proposals to invest a further £10 million in the Housing Intervention Fund. We all know a decent place to live is a foundation on which people build their lives. If you have a good quality home, then health, employment, education, achievement and happy life are often much easier to obtain. Housing is a key priority for the council, as you have witnessed in our previous reports, and as a Labour council, central to our programme to protect, care and invest to create a better borough. This fund will also add to supported and specialist housing strategy. We have established a pipeline of circa 940 new supported and specialist accommodation set to be delivered between 2022 and 2025, targeting the needs of older and younger residents with mental and physical disabilities, care leavers and veterans. We're driving change locally, but we know there is more to do, and we're therefore committed to invest a further 10 million over the next 10 years. This investment will be one of the interventions to add value and tackle failures in the market, not to replace or duplicate investment or delivery. It will focus on increasing the range and choice of affordable homes, including specialist and supported housing, targeted to need, facilitating home ownership through initiatives for key groups, including first-time buyers, to access the market, and maintaining independent living. Initial proposals for the use of the fund include affordable and accessible homes programme using the council's recent registered provider status to deliver an initial 50 new affordable, specialist and supported housing units, which will target stalled development sites in the heart of our communities. The investment will be used for a viability gap fund to acquisition or market delivery of sites, providing accommodation that directly matches the needs identified by adult and children's services, and also address sites that are currently a blight on our neighbourhoods. The Telford Loan Scheme, this scheme will support people who currently live or work in a borough onto the housing ladder, including first-time buyers, and to address the standard and energy efficiency of existing properties. Working with an experienced social lender, the scheme will provide financial support via a range of loan finance tailored to individual circumstances. And we're also going to explore community housing, as in a number of our communities we have seen a huge growth in the private rented market. Growing community sector ownership or management of housing in these areas provides opportunities for local people to access local homes, for local employment in the refurbishment and maintenance, and to enable the growth of new local housing providers. I must add that we'll continue to lobby more government funding to support the regeneration of our former Newtown estates, and note that this doesn't continue to fall on deaf ears. Levelling up shouldn't be just words. I therefore move the recommendations numbers 1 and 2 in the report.
Thank you. Councillor Burford?
Thank you, Sean. I've spoken before here about the importance of specialist and supported housing for managing our adult social care demands in future. It's actually central. It isn't just a useful addition to the measures we have to take to support people. It is crucial both to the demands made on us and to the well-being and the sense of security that people feel out there who have some specialist needs. With the ageing population that I mentioned earlier, and with the increasing complexity of needs, this is so important. We've seen at previous cabinet meetings that our specialist and supported housing strategy come forward, and a good one it is, I believe, and it's been backed now by a supplementary planning document, and we're one of the first councils to take things that far. And it's already bearing fruit. It's helping as it's intended to guide the market. We can see, as Richard has already mentioned, the schemes that are coming through over the next 3 years, 1,000 new units. The Donington Wood Way scheme, for example, with 76 extra care facilities, and a number of others. This housing investment fund really does help to oil the wheels in terms of bringing forward sites for development. We know that developers won't always go for this type of housing in terms of their making it stack up. But with this little bit of extra money, we can make sites work, and that's what's happening. And I really welcome this report as further evidence that we're ahead of the game in this area. Thank you.
Thank you. Andy? Kelly?
Thank you, it's brilliant, yeah, and also I've seen firsthand the fantastic work and the benefit of the NSAPs of the Telford Housing First properties and the wraparound support, which is vital within properties. You know, people have been rough sleeping, you can't just put them under a roof and expect them to sustain a tenancy and become everything's solved. So the work that I've seen and people that I've seen with quite complex need come through the housing, and the turnaround's quite remarkable in the work that they've achieved, and are now living. I suppose your housing's like your Maslow's hierarchy, isn't it? And if we haven't got that in place, so it's fantastic. So I have seen firsthand the benefit of those properties, and just wanted to say it is amazing the work that's been achieved through it. So well done.
Thank you. Any other councillors want to comment? Okay, Andrew.
Yes, there's one thing that hasn't been mentioned is the stalled sites programme, which I think is particularly good. Certainly getting those sites back into use and bridging any gaps there to have them develop rather than be an eyesore, and then provide something for the local community has to be a good thing. And I'll just come back to my question, if I can, on the 10 million Housing Intervention Fund. Where does that come from?
Thank you.
Yeah, I welcome the report. Particularly listening to Andy with regards to vulnerable adults. It's so important that you think of issues in hospitals of bed blocking where people can't come out because they need, specialist equipment or specialist housing. So it's great we can do that. And people really, really, really want to stay in their own homes. And the more we can do to help facilitate that, the better, really. So welcome the report.
Thank you, Bill. I'll just say something on this item. I think there's a real balance to be struck here between ensuring that where public money is used to bring forward stall sites, that does genuinely add value, and we're not subsidising a profit. And I think that the work that we do as a council around due diligence is really important. I know that we take that very, very seriously. and we ensure that actually it is those sites that we desperately need to bring brought forward, and that the units that are then provided are units that we desperately need. And I think we've got a fantastic track record around that, but we just need to ensure that we keep that rigour in place, and it isn't just some people who sit back, land bank, and then wants to be subsidised to bring forward that development. And I think we need far more powers where planning consent is being granted to use it or lose it type legislation that says to people, if you don't develop it, you can't just sit on it for years and want public subsidy to deliver the funding. And then just finally, I think this is yet another first, as Andy said, for a council in the country to bring these two agendas together, and our officers and our team should be congratulated for that. Okay, let's start over to Donna. Come back on anything?
Yeah, I'd just like to say that I know Andrew was at full council on the 3rd of March, where we included a 10 million capital allocation for affordable housing initiatives that you didn't vote for. So that's where the money will be coming from.
Councillor Burton, have you got anything to say in response? Sorry, Andrew.
I'm just asking.
Andrew, no. He's answered the question. It's in the report. Look under financial section.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Okay, so it's been moved, it's been seconded. Andrew, it's in the report.
You didn't vote for it anyway.
All those in favour? Thank you very much. Right, we'll come forward now to our next report, another very positive report. You can have a moment off. Item 9, which are our events updates, Karen.
I was going to see if Councillor Elwood wanted to do this as well, to be honest. So thank you, Leader. So this report provides an overview of the Council's future events programme and announces that we're doubling our funding for events to £2 million as part of our On Your Side investment programme. And that we're doing this because we know the importance of culture and events in really helping our communities come back together following the restrictions of the pandemic, and also bringing visitors back to Telford and Wrekin and to our borough towns, and the much needed economic benefits that brings. And also, just providing some much needed fun. It's been tough for the last couple of years, and there's a lot to be said for actually having some fun and enjoyment. And of course, most of our events are free, so everyone can enjoy these events. So the programme for 2022 is already well underway. We've had our Love Telford event in March. We celebrated the diversity of our borough, and it was a really wonderful event, seeing communities come together, sharing their cultures and also showing their support for the people of Ukraine. We've also started our second year of celebrating our high streets with events last weekend and again this weekend in our borough towns, and that brings much needed footfall back into those areas, and I know our businesses are really appreciative of those events going on. As well as bringing back some of our residents' much loved favourites, such as the Spring into St George's, Telford Carnival and the hugely popular Balloon Fiesta. This year we're adding in some additional special events to join the celebrations of the Queen's Platinum Jubilee in June, and also the Commonwealth Games in July. Some of the highlights, just to make you aware of, coming up for Jubilee, we've got a human beacon up the Wrekin, which we've been recently promoting, and you can register to take part in that. A Jubilee concert in Telford Town Park with a prom-style finale. And we want everyone to get involved in the celebrations, and that's why through our community grant scheme we've been able to support 49 local events across the borough, so there will be a Jubilee event somewhere near you, so everyone can get involved in that. We're also really proud to be hosting the first leg of the Commonwealth Games Queen's Baton Relay in the West Midlands on the 19th of July. That will include the baton travelling up the Wrekin at sunrise, through Ironbridge by Coracle and by Elephant. More look out for that one. And through the town park as well, to a school-based sports day and carnival procession. There'll also be an opportunity for residents to come together to support Team GB at our Commonwealth Games live site, which will screen the highlights and big events of the Games. And as a cooperative council, we work in partnership with our communities to develop events. This can be seen with the Get Telford walking events that are happening this weekend, also the Festival of Imagination, which is our World Heritage Festival, that again brings a number of partners together to celebrate our World Heritage Site. And for me, I think the range and scale of our events that we provide is just another example of how Telford and Wrekin Council aims high. We really punch above our weight, I think, and I hope to see members out enjoying the events over the summer. I move the recommendations.
Thank you. Is that seconded? Ivy?
Yeah, I mean, The events programme, it's a key part of our Protect, Care and Invest programme. So obviously on a visitor economy scale, it brings people into our borough that are spending money here, and that they come from far and wide to some of our events, things like the Balloon Fiesta Carnival. We've just got a really, really great programme of events that are going on, and I know the team worked really, really hard to put these together. It's not easy. The events programme has been really welcomed by residents. People love to come to these things, and it's not just about a nice event to put on. These are community building events that we put on. These bring people together, bring our communities together. They promote people's health and well-being, so they're a real positive for our borough. And just with Pride in the High Streets, I think, you know, that support around the high streets. Our high streets are doing really well, you know, when you look out in the wider sort of areas, high streets are struggling, and I think the work that has been done around high streets has been really important. It's just giving those local businesses that extra support. So it's a brilliant programme. So thanks to Carolyn and the officers for bringing it. It's fantastic.
Wonderful report and great work all round for a number of different reasons. First of all, thank Carolyn and the team, and particularly often see at a lot of these events the same members of the team, often drenched in sweat because they've been running from pillar to post to help facilitate some of these events. But on a very, very practical level, first of all, you know, these events are fantastic in terms of reinforcing people's love and pride in their hometown, their borough. You know, some were born here, some have come here, but they absolutely reinforce the pride and what a great place it is. Secondly, as Councillor Collier just intimated, you know, businesses are facing a real tough time at the moment, so what better way than us putting events on to encourage people from far and wide to come to Telford Wrekin and spend money in those businesses as an add-on to attending an event. And then thirdly and finally, you know, I think you just look through this report and some of the imagery that's created from these fantastic events, creating a real positive image of our fantastic borough at a time when we have got other people who choose to try and talk down our borough, create more negative images of our borough. Absolutely, we need to do this. This is just one part of absolutely saying to people, yes, we have our challenges as a borough, we definitely have our issues, but ultimately it's a fantastic green place, thriving place, vibrant place, and a place that people really, really do want to come to visit, to attend one of these fantastic events. So fantastic work all round.
Thank you. Shirley?
Thank you. Yeah, quick one really. I mean, the events programme, just looking through it, the wealth of activities that we're providing over the year, that we're providing opportunities for families across the absolutely amazing. But I think it's also remembering that this actually, it's about inward investment. I know if you go to a lot of our events, especially those at the town park, you talk to families, a lot of the families who are attending are actually people who live outside the borough and who are coming into the borough, and they're spending that money within our area. And I think that's really, really important, that we don't lose sight and think, oh, we're just putting on events for fun. We're actually doing something to improve the economy within Telford and Wrekin. Going on to the high street events again, excellent support to help our high streets. They really need it after the couple of years that they've had. Last week in my own town of Open Gates, it was brilliant, and it wasn't just popular with the families, it was really popular with the businesses. The traders could get a real positive boost for the town. They actually know it's not just words, it's actions, we're supporting that town. We've also hosted the Get Walking events. We've had a couple of those within the town as well, and that is really good. It's promoting the town. This week it is walking around the town. People will actually get a real feel of what it's like. But last week the walk was going off to one of our wonderful green spaces. The walk ended up at the Cocksure and then went back into the town for the people in the walk to spend their money and go in the cafes in the town. But it's promoting our fantastic green spaces while we're also feeding into the healthy lifestyles, and it's about people's mental health and well-being, and that is also part of the event. So I think it's realising holistically there's an awful lot more that goes on behind all of these events. We're supporting the businesses and the communities and our families, and we're really proud of our borough, and it's fantastic to be able to show it off, and I think that's what this allows us to do.
Thank you. Richard?
Yeah, I'd just like to focus on that as well. I mean, it's a bit of real celebration when you go to these events. You know, there's lots of buzz about those events wherever they're being held, and it's great that, you know, as we've always said as this administration, we focus on our high streets as well. So it's not everything's just in the town park; it's in other towns. I mean, the Armed Force in Donington, you know, and I went to Open Gates and he got covered in bubbles at the weekend. You know, it's really great bringing people back to High Street. I mean, if you looked at the telly this morning, which even was struggling at what regeneration of their high streets, because they are really struggling. But in Telford Wrekin, we've invested in our high streets to our grants, but also bringing people there, visitors, not just people who are local, but visitors. And after all, it's all, you know, 99% of these things are free. You know, so, you know, people have got the opportunity to make choices where they go to celebrate, where they go to see an event, what they got to do. And the team is small, and they do such a great job in delivering all this for our residents. You know, so a big thank to them, because, you know, they're doing an amazing job. And our you know, the Spring St George, the comments I've had about St George, you know, as someone from St George's, it's nice that we celebrate St George's Day. And you know, and I know the leader was keen that when he came lead that we focused on doing that, because it's a great cultural day. All the things we've done, you know, from I can't, the words don't describe the effort goes into putting on, or just one event, to put on all these events through the year. It's amazing. I just, my heartfelt thanks to the team, you know, and our residents, heartfelt thanks as well, because they enjoy them so much.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from the Bill?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for the event. It does raise the spirits of the local population, so thank you for the team that put all that together. Just one point of clarity though, can you confirm that the elephant won't be going in the coracle?
Andrew?
No.
Well, I'd like to say something on this, and I think that debate has just really shone something, hasn't it? That when we're talking about something positive, when we're talking about something upbeat, when we're talking about something that brings communities together, when we're talking about things that residents want to do and enjoy themselves and bring make Telford look a fantastic place, the leader of the opposition hasn't got a single word to say about it, because this is about believing in Telford. This is about believing in Telford Wrekin. And also, what I would say is that every pound of this investment for events is voted against by every single Conservative councillor. Yeah, you did. You voted against the budget. You voted against the council tax freeze for 2 years. You voted against the funding for houses. You voted against the money for enforcement. You voted against the events. And the other thing I would like to say is that the events programme, again, if I go back a few years, it was attacked and the stones were thrown at it. We were wasting money. We were doing things that council shouldn't do. Now what do we have? We have a fantastic portfolio of free family events that thousands of people get involved. We have commercial operators coming to town park, putting on events with world-class artists, attracting thousands of people into our park, spending money. Because the naysayers, the negative people who want to talk down our borough, talk down our council, did not win. And I'd just like to end on a positive note. My little boy is 5 years of age, and he can't remember a time when there wasn't a balloon in the sky during the summer. And the memories that we are creating for our young people is incredible. Positivity with Labour, negativity with the Conservatives. It's been moved, it's been seconded. All those in favour? That's carried. What?
Is that your new policy?
Andrew, it's 2022, and we're going to go to item 10, the annual annual governance statement. Let's talk about the future, not be a man of the past. Councillor Ray Evans, annual governance statement 21-22.
Thank you, Leader. The 21-22 annual governance statement sets out our adherence to the Council's governance arrangements that operated during the period the 1st of April 21 to the 31st of March 22 and measures the effectiveness of them. All service delivery managers were sent a questionnaire regarding the governance arrangements in their area, and their responses were forwarded to directors for review, and then the relevant executive directors had final sign-off. Audit have subsequently collated these responses and have produced an action plan that you have before you, detailing areas for further development. The annual governance statement has previously been presented to SMT and demonstrates a strong organisation capable of self-assessment and reflection, and one that is continually looking for ways to improve. The statement now requires approval from Cabinet and then will go to the Audit Committee before being fed into the final accounts.
Thank you. Is that seconded? Are there any questions or comments from the Cabinet? Carolyn?
I think, I mean, all I would say is, I think you look at all the reports and things we've discussed in this meeting, haven't we? And I think one of the things that shows is that yes, you know, we are investing money. We're also making sure that all of those things that we're trying to do, there's so much crossover, wasn't there, in all of the things that we do, because we're trying to deliver on a range of agendas. It's a really joined up organisation, and I think the governance statement just adds to that, doesn't it, that we can't do all these things without really good oversight, really strong governance, to ensure that we're doing things in exactly the right way. We're meeting our ambition, but we're also meeting our, you know, our legal and regulatory requirements. So, you know, I welcome this robust statement. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments, Bill?
Yeah, I still don't know why you leave this till last. It's the census report. And right on forward to the census. There is one little teeny little point I'd like to make though, is that many years ago when we first brought scrutiny in, which actually gave opposition people the chance to have their say, there was an excellent practice. We were best practice under Professor Leach in that we had a sharing out of the chairs of scrutiny between administration and an administration and an opposition. Now, unfortunately, when the Conservatives come in, they brought a halt to that, and it all went to administration. Unfortunately, you followed suit. Now, I know it's common practice, it's very common practice to have the administration chair all the scrutiny.
Andrew,
Wait a
you
minute.
let Bill finish.
You can tell, you can have your but to actually, it would be best practice, not just common practice, it would be best practice to reinstate that at some stage. So I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Andrew, we're talking about the annual governance review and the comments from the report. It's not your job to respond to individual members. So, Andrew, have you got any questions on the report?
Yes, we were the administration that shared the chairs out. I gave it to Derek White to head up scrutiny.
Right, thank you.
You changed it straight away after, and you wouldn't do it before the Conservative administration.
Okay. We're hearing. It's really interesting from both opposition leaders. We've been dragged back to the past. 2007, 2006, 2005. But I focus on 2011, 2015, 2019, and 2023. Thank you,
me to speak.
Andrew. You're the only person who continues to talk over people. You won't, because you won't be invited. It's been moved, it's been seconded. All those in favour? All. Thank you very much. I now bring the meeting to an end. Thank you. I said if you continue to be